Today I want to touch briefly on the current state of mask culture in the United States as a result of COVID-19. Now, for those who don't know, the time of recording, this is May 29th, and just recently the CDC came out stating that all individuals who are vaccinated no longer need to wear masks, indoors, outdoors, large groups, with very few exceptions, being hospitals, nursing homes, and public transportation, most notably. So I want to quickly unpack the different sides of this argument as to whether or not this is a rational decision. First, let's look at pro-mask. There are many people who are still wanting everyone to keep wearing a mask, and there's good reason. For example, in the US, about 50% of people have had their first vaccine. Around 40% are fully vaccinated. This is certainly not anywhere near a herd immunity of something we would see comparable to a flu shot. And this is, of course, not a flu. It's also fair to say that the major argument being presented by those who are anti-mask is this argument against the revoking of our liberties. And those who are still in favor of wearing a mask are right in thinking that this argument was a bad one. In the same sense that you can't punch someone simply because you have the freedom of movement, in the same sense that you can't speed simply because you have freedom of driving a vehicle, you also can't deliberately infect those around you, or at least have a high likelihood of infecting them, simply because of your liberty to not wear a mask. But on the flip side, there are those who are claiming that now, over a year into a global pandemic, it's time to get our economy back moving again. It's fair to say that vaccination rates are slowing in the United States anyways, and to force people to stay out of our economy any longer could potentially cause more damage than simply enforcing vaccination policies. Now, the way I look at this is somewhere in between the two, because both sides have valid arguments at this point in our path towards normalcy. On one hand, the economy is important. On the other hand, we certainly don't have a herd immunity. So how do we combat this? I would argue we are at a point where restricting people's movement in the sense of forcing people to stay 6 feet apart, not allowing people to use fitness facilities, forcing people to wear masks, we're at a point where that is no longer reasonable because of the economic downside. However, with the increases in supply chains, it's valid to allow everyone to continue wearing masks. And more importantly than allow it, we shouldn't have any social stigma around those who continue to wear them. Around those who have N95s, for example, quality respirators, masks that do more than simply protect those around them, but in fact protect themselves. Because at some point we do need to accept that our world will go back to normal and there will still be problems even in normalcy. The flu still hurts people. AIDS is still a major issue. We have real problems. And yes, having more people vaccinated against COVID-19 would help this problem. But what options do you have? Either transition our economy back to normal as vaccination rates dwindle, or force people to be vaccinated. And the only extent you could take that, with my understanding of U.S. governance, is forcing children to take a vaccine before they go to public education. And as we know, we're only just now rolling out vaccines suitable for the adolescents of this world. So if we can't force a vaccine rollout to children, then it would seem almost against our American legislative protocol to require this vaccination to go anywhere else we want to go, to travel, to shop in grocery stores, particularly since at this point a near majority of the country is vaccinated. Simply stated, there is no perfect answer. If you continue wearing masks, people will be upset, whether it's for a valid reason or not. And if we tell people they don't have to wear masks anymore, and companies follow suit, then many people will continue to get sick. And so the best solution I see is not one that I'm here to decide. It's one that should be based on the best evidence presented by, yes, the CDC, and they've drawn their conclusions, as well as our economists, showing us what economic impact there will be. So this is all I have to say today. It's a short podcast, but hopefully one that gets you thinking. Because again, I don't have all the answers. And maybe people are right, saying we should continue to wear masks. And maybe people are wrong. And really we should no longer need any kind of masking in any businesses. But regardless, it's worth thinking about, because the people I see butting heads, whether online or in the workplace, are failing to grasp the other perspectives. And while some, again, are more valid than others, it's fair to say that we are at an interesting point in our path towards normalcy, whatever that looks like. And it's worth talking about soberly.